Detective Walter Hawthorne sat in the hollow silence of his office, the morning sun casting an austere glow through the smudged window. Papers lay scattered across the mahogany desk, a testament to the myriad of unsolved mysteries that plagued his weary mind. But there was one in particular that stirred the stagnant waters of his thoughts, an odd case about a secretive laboratory in the otherwise placid town of Greenburgh, New York. The file was thin, almost inconsequential, but there was an edge to it that tickled the back of his memory, a prickling undercurrent that pulled him towards it. Flooded images of his past surfaced as he traced his fingers over the file. An unbidden shudder ran down his spine. He remembered the water, cold, voracious, engulfing his world. The flood had left him with more than just physical scars. It was an open wound on his psyche, a dreadful reminder of how quickly one can be submerged in chaos. A knock pulled Walter back from the murky depths of his thoughts. It was Helen, his resilient secretary, her gaze as kind as it was discerning. "Another local called about that Greenburgh case," she reported, her voice a ripple in the silence. "Said there's something off about the morgue." He nodded, his gaze lingering on the file. The morgue, a place where the dead held court, where life and death danced in a macabre embrace. His interest was piqued. Why would a sleepy town harbor rumors about a laboratory attached to it? "Get them on the line, Helen," he said, his voice gravelly from disuse. As he talked to the informant, Walter couldn't help but feel a sense of duality at play. On one hand, he was intrigued by the secrecy shrouding the laboratory, by the uneasy whispers of the morgue. On the other, he was reminded of a favor, an act of kindness during his tribulation in the flood, that remained unreturned. It seemed as if this case, this cryptic morgue in Greenburgh, held the potential to balance the scales of his past. His conversation was punctuated by long silences, the informant's words as cryptic as the case itself. But Walter listened, his spirit undeterred. Amidst the disjointed snippets and hushed apprehensions, he picked up on the subtlest undercurrent of fear, a fear that resonated with his past, a dread he understood too well. As he hung up, he realized the depth of the abyss he was about to plunge into. But there was no fear in him, only a resolute acceptance, an unwavering bravery that stemmed from having survived his own deluge. The floodwaters may have receded in his life, but the tides were just beginning to rise in this quiet town of Greenburgh. The past had emerged from its depths. The ripples had begun. He closed the file, his thoughts simmering with intrigue and a touch of apprehension. He was ready to dive in, ready to face the ominous undercurrents of Greenburgh, its secretive laboratory, and the rumored morgue. The floodwaters of his past hadn't drowned him. They had only made him a better swimmer. It was time to put his hard-earned resilience to test and see what lurked beneath the morgue's calm surface. The journey to Greenburgh was a descent into a quaint yet peculiar stillness, a tableau of tranquility where houses huddled like whispered secrets. Amidst this hush stood the building that had stirred the surface of this sleepy town, the enigmatic laboratory. A bland, unassuming edifice of gray concrete, the laboratory was a stark contrast to the genteel charm of the town. However, its seemingly innocuous facade was belied by the foreboding silence that hung around it like a shroud. The morgue, an extension of this silent sentinel, rested at its heart, veiled in a shadow that seemed almost corporeal. Walter's arrival was met with curious gazes and hushed whispers. His heart resonated with a strange rhythm as he introduced himself to the staff, their plastic smiles and hollow greetings reinforcing the eerie discomfort that gnawed at him. Every conversation felt like a cryptic dance around the truth, each person a puppet with the strings controlled by an unseen master. "Everything is as normal as it can be, Detective Hawthorne," Dr. Harold Gibbons, the head of the laboratory, assured him, his smile too wide, his laugh a touch too forced. Walter nodded, his eyes sweeping across the sterile walls of the laboratory, the two clean floors that held no trace of the horrific rumors that echoed in the corners of Greenburgh. He couldn't shake off the feeling of an elaborate facade, a veil of normality that cloaked something unspeakable. The morgue was his next stop. An unsettling stillness greeted him there, an absence of life so profound that it filled the air with an oppressive weight. The cadavers lay shrouded in white, their silent presence a morbid testament to the fragility of life. It was here, amidst this kingdom of death, that the tendrils of the rumors seemed to grow stronger, wrapping around his senses and pulling him deeper into the mystery. His days in Greenburgh were filled with cryptic conversations, elusive clues, and an escalating dread that the facade would crack open any minute. With every quiet question, every seemingly insignificant piece of information he gathered, he felt the darkness grow. The rumors of a cult began to take shape, a horrifying silhouette in the abyss. Yet he held into his unwavering optimism, a beacon amidst the encroaching darkness. The words of his long-deceased father echoed in his ears. "There's always light, son," even at the end of the darkest tunnels. By the time he left the morgue on his fourth day, his every nerve was humming with unease. The morgue had offered no concrete evidence, yet its oppressive stillness, its enigmatic air, whispered a tale of dread. The shadow of the cult seemed to grow darker, more substantial with every passing hour. Night descended upon Greenburgh as he sat alone in his temporary accommodation, the day's events playing in his mind like a twisted nocturne. The whispers, the fear, the clandestine practices all pointed towards a terrifying unknown. He had yet to scratch the surface of this monstrous secret, yet he knew that the echo of his past, the desire to repay a long-standing debt, and his stubborn bravery would not let him abandon this dissection of shadows. As he drifted into an uneasy sleep, the memory of his past floodwaters seeped into his dreams, merging with the ominous shadows of Greenburgh. He was in the eye of a storm, a tempest born from his past and present. He could only hope to weather this storm and reveal the monstrous truth that lurked in its heart. 2 weeks had passed since Walter Hawthorne first set foot in Greenburgh. 2 weeks since the shadows of the laboratory and its morgue began to entwine his waking thoughts and haunt his dreams. His intuition had guided him through the labyrinth of strange encounters and cryptic whispers. Yet the mystery clung to the town's marrow, refusing to be exorcised by the light of revelation. One evening, as twilight kissed the day goodbye, painting the town in hues of melancholy, a cryptic note was slipped under his door, an invitation, if one were to be optimistic. It bore no sender's name, only an address and a time. Curiosity stirred within him, an undercurrent of trepidation rippling beneath his brave facade. With the note clasped in his hand, he felt the gravity of the investigation pulling him toward an unseen precipice. The address led him to an unmarked building nestled in the outskirts of the town. It stood there, a monolith against the star-pierced canopy of the night, an island in the sea of darkness. A single light flickered ominously in a distant window, a beacon guiding him into the heart of the enigma. As he entered, the building swallowed him, the darkness inside denser than the night outside. The echoes of his footsteps were hushed, swallowed by the silence of the place, their subtle reverberations feeling out of place amidst the morbid quietude. He walked through winding corridors, their labyrinthine twists reminiscent of the morgue that continued to haunt his thoughts. A soft light spilled from under a door at the far end of a narrow hallway, the spectral glow illuminating the otherwise oppressive darkness. With every step closer, his heartbeat amplified in his ears like a silent drum roll to the macabre spectacle he was about to witness. The door creaked open to reveal a scene from his most horrifying nightmares. A group of people, shrouded in the anonymity of dimmed lights and heavy robes, huddled around a grotesque centerpiece. A feast of human flesh, a scene that struck a chilling chord of realization within him. The cult of whispers was real, their practices more horrifying than any rumor that had led him here. His breath hitched, eyes widening in horror as he watched the unthinkable unfold before him. But he was rooted in place, his mind reeling, unable to process the reality of the scene. There was a monstrous kind of elegance in their ritual, an unholy reverence that held him captive, a witness to the perversion of life. The air grew thicker with the scent of the feast, a metallic tang that reminded him of the flood, of cold water, and a struggle for survival. He could see it now, the twisted mirror that reflected his past ordeal, the grotesque feast paralleling his own fight for life in the deluge years ago. Retreating into the labyrinthine corridors, his body trembled, his mind screamed in disgust and terror, but he held onto his sanity by a thread. He was in the belly of the beast, caught in the shadowy web of the cannibalistic cult, a lone warrior amidst a sea of monsters. As he escaped into the night, the building looming behind him like a monstrous creature, the horrifying images of the feast burned into his retinas, the taste of his fear lingering in his mouth. He knew then that he had crossed a point of no return. He had uncovered the heart of the abyss, only to find a horror that echoed the monstrous depths of cosmic fear. The floodwaters of his past had led him here, to an unholy feast that mocked the sanctity of life. The sun rose in Greenburgh as if nothing had changed, painting the sky with hues of innocence that belied the horrors of the previous night. Walter Hawthorne was a changed man, his once optimistic eyes now bearing the weight of the monstrous truth. He had seen the unimaginable, borne witness to the perversion that ran deep in the town's veins. Now it was his task to break free, to carry this revelation to the world outside this insidious cocoon of cosmic horror. His steps felt heavy, echoing his burden as he retraced his path back to the laboratory, back to the morgue that lay at the heart of this terror. He needed evidence, tangible proof of the abhorrent feast he had witnessed. Every rustle of the leaves, every hushed whisper of the wind carried a chilling reminder of his newfound status as prey. The laboratory was as it had been, sterile, silent, a masquerade of normality. He walked its familiar corridors, his steps echoing louder than before, reflecting his heightened senses. The morgue awaited him, its cold walls and the haunting stillness a stark contrast to the scenes of the unholy feast. Searching proved to be an exercise in nerve-wracking suspense, each passing minute a taunt from the ever-ticking clock. Yet perseverance led him to it, an insidious underbelly hidden beneath the morgue's floor, a chamber of horrific revelations. The remains of past feasts and the tools of their ghastly rituals were all there, a macabre tableau hidden beneath the town's unsuspecting gaze. Evidence gathered, he began his retreat, his heart pounding a crescendo of urgency. But the cult was a beast not to be underestimated. His exit was barred, cult members emerging from the shadows like wraiths. The chase was on, a terrifying game of cat and mouse through the labyrinthine corridors of the laboratory. Every turn he took, every corner he rounded, was an exercise in terror, his every nerve screaming for escape. Yet amidst the fear, he felt a spark of hope. His every stride was fueled by the memory of the flood, the resilience he had honed in the face of his past ordeal. He was no stranger to survival, to battling the odds. In a climactic rush of adrenaline, he burst from the confinement of the building, the first light of dawn kissing his sweat-slicked skin. The town remained still, oblivious to the horrifying chase that had just concluded. His breath hitched as he made his escape, the sleepy town of Greenburgh disappearing in his rearview mirror, its monstrous secret now a part of him. He had managed to escape the maw, yet the taste of fear lingered, a chilling reminder of the horrors he had witnessed, of the fiends that continued their dreadful existence unchallenged. As he drove into the embrace of the rising sun, his heart echoed with a quiet resilience. The storm had passed, but the waters remained choppy, the memories of the unholy feast forever imprinted on his soul. He was free yet bound, forever linked to the abyss that lurked in the heart of Greenburgh. The detective had survived yet another flood, but this one was of cosmic horror, a deluge of monstrous revelations. The echo of his experience would follow him, a haunting whisper in the stillness of his nights, a reflection of the cosmic terror that spanned beyond human comprehension. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.